major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Memorial Day, May 25th. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. The long holiday weekend is wrapping up as San Diego balances a slow reopening with the desire to get outside. How is social distancing and new rules at businesses playing out during the unofficial start of summer? KPBS reporter Max Rivlin-Nadler went to our beaches to find out.
The beaches weren't as crowded as a normal holiday weekend, but the taps were flowing at Mike Hess Brewery in Imperial Beach. There were a few very noticeable differences this weekend as the brew pub was open for the first time in months. Masked customers were escorted to their well-spaced picnic tables, and wait service brought drinks from the bar. Once you were at the table, you were asked to stay there, unless you were going to the bathroom. The general manager at the bar, who goes by Red, said this is all about making sure service is done safely.
Safety is our priority with our community, especially IB. They've treated us really well. We Purell sanitize all the tables along with a sanitizing spray afterwards.
She said that police and local officials had checked in throughout the weekend to make sure that everything was going smoothly. The South Bay has been hardest hit by COVID-19 in the county.
As long as we're doing our due diligence and our customers are also doing their due diligence, I think we're going to make it through. But to have this open for people and people respecting the rules is what's going to bring us together and also survive this whole pandemic.
Mike Hess is the owner of his namesake brewery and was happy that the city had closed down the street in front of the brewery to give local business owners a chance to move their business outside, where there is more space.
Having the outdoor space and for us being able to expand, maybe it even goes every weekend through the course of the summer, as it just allows businesses, like Vitamin C Wellness right here, obviously us, to come out and bring the product out to people. And then it's just so nice to have a pedestrian pathway right here along the beach. It's really fantastic.
The Silver Strand was filled with people walking on the beach with lifeguards and police patrolling nearby. But everyone kept their distance. Congregating is still not allowed on any beaches in San Diego County. On Newport Avenue and Ocean Beach, it was another story. People lined up in crowded sidewalks for tacos, ice cream, and burgers.
We came down to Ocean Beach to get some hodads with the dogs.
Gahan D'Souza came down from Carlsbad for some burgers he was eating in his car. He thought hodads had done enough to ensure safety.
It was great. They actually had orange tape, so we were all 6 feet apart, and everybody was standing with masks and, pretty socially distancing.
County health officials have been watching how closely businesses are hewing to their guidelines.
It's a very different Memorial Day than we used to.
For many businesses, Memorial Day weekend, the biggest beach weekend of the year, was a trial run. As San Diego continues its downward trend in positive coronavirus cases, they're hoping for good results. Max Rivlin-Nadler, KPBS News.
One thing we've reported on during the COVID-19 shutdown is a big drop in traffic, and that has been evident in this year's DUI numbers. The latest report from California Highway Patrol shows 25 DUI arrests this weekend and 0 deaths locally. That's roughly half of what CHP reported during the same period last year. The trend is similar statewide. CHP's maximum enforcement period for the holiday weekend wraps up at midnight. Like everywhere across the country, Memorial Day remembrances were different this year for San Diegans. KPBS reporter Joe Hong attended a virtual ceremony that took viewers to 4 iconic locations.
Whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight.
The virtual ceremony started with the national anthem at Fort Rosecrans National Cemetery in Point Loma. The hour-long commemoration hosted by the USS Midway Museum took viewers to Mount Soledad National Memorial, Miramar National Cemetery, and the USS Midway Museum. In between, viewers heard from veterans.
More than 1.1 million men and women have died in wartime during our nation's history. Add the wounded and missing, and that number is closer to 2.8 million. These numbers should humble us.
The virtual commemoration allowed San Diegans to still remember fallen soldiers even with the coronavirus pandemic preventing people from gathering.
We came back about early April timeframe and said we probably won't be able to meet in person. We need to still do something.
Phil Kendrow is the vice president of the Mount Soledad Memorial Association. He helped oversee the production of the virtual commemoration. Whether it's virtual or in person, Kendrow urges San Diegans to spend a few moments reflecting on the sacrifices of soldiers and their families.
The biggest thing I would always ask for anybody in San Diego across the nation as well is to make sure that they take a moment to think about why we have Memorial Day. It's not a day off just to have a day off. There's a reason behind it.
But for veterans like Dale Dye, the meaning of the 3-day weekend is hard to forget.
We understand the heart of Memorial Day because we've seen firsthand the amount of service and sacrifice that's been paid in defense of our American freedoms.
If you missed the live presentation, you can still see the commemoration on the USS Midway Museum's YouTube page. Joe Hong, KPBS News.
Coming up, remembering the fallen at Arlington National Cemetery. Precautions like the wearing of masks and social distancing have changed some of the solemn moments for grieving families. See how the military is updating its practices a bit later in this newscast. A mix of ceremony and criticism today from President Trump. After attending a Memorial Day service, he publicly threatened to move his party's convention if COVID-19 restrictions are not lifted. More now from Nadia Romero.
We mourn alongside every single family that has lost loved ones, including the families of our great veterans.
The presidential wreath laying at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. An annual ceremony that a pandemic can't stop. But it did spur officials to reserve visitations to Arlington National Cemetery to family pass holders only. And all pass holders entering the cemetery must wear their face masks in restrooms and anytime they are unable to keep at least 6 feet away from others. Despite the safety measures taken here, across America, coronavirus outbreaks are flaring up as people pack into public places, ignoring CDC warnings to wear face masks and observe physical distances. In North Carolina, outrage has taken over the streets in at least 5 cities across the state. Reopen rally protesters say the governor's phased reopening approach isn't good enough for the state's economy.
This is about people's lives, their livelihoods.
Now President Trump is threatening to pull the Republican National Convention from Charlotte, lashing out against Governor Cooper, who says he is, quote, unable to guarantee that the arena can be filled to capacity.
And we look forward to working with Governor Cooper, getting a swift response, and if needs be, moving the National Convention to a state that is farther along on reopening.
In Washington, Nadia Romero, KPBS News.
The holiday brought a pause in the daily COVID-19 press conferences at the state and local levels, but we're still getting updates on the local numbers. The San Diego County Health and Human Services Agency reports nearly 100 new cases over the past 24-hour period. Overall, the county is approaching 6,800 cases. 249 people have died from COVID-19, locally with no new deaths reported for the second day in a row. Churches in California say they want to reopen, and now they have new guidelines from the state on how to do so. Since March, religious services have been closed to the public. Today, Governor Newsom issued a 13-page advisory for churches and other houses of worship. It includes limiting attendance to 25% or 100 people, whichever is lower. Face coverings are also encouraged. The state is also urging shorter services and a limit on singing. Over the weekend, the San Diego Archdiocese announced it plans to resume in-person masses as early as June 8th. A retired Marine from San Diego is raising awareness to the plight of veterans in need of mental health support. He's doing so by standing in salute for 24 hours. More now from reporter Kevin Lewis.
On a concrete median at the corner of Constitution Avenue and 23rd Street Northwest stands retired Marine Staff Sergeant Tim Chambers.
It's a very emotional time. Very emotional.
Chambers' wife, Lorraine, says her husband began the Memorial Day weekend tradition in 2002, saluting thousands of Rolling Thunder motorcyclists for hours on end. This year, however, the 45-year-old San Diego County resident plans to stand for 24 hours straight, all to raise awareness about veteran suicide. Chambers handpicked a music playlist for motivation. After all, he's abstaining from water, food, and bathroom breaks.
Health, relationships, financial, those are the biggest things that contribute to suicide.
Sabrina Barella helps run Chambers' charity, fittingly named the Saluting Marine Cares. It pays for veteran medical bills left uncovered by the VA.
None of us take a salary with the charity, so everything goes to veterans.
Although thousands have streamed Chambers' feat online,
I've never seen a man with so much endurance.
Robert Hall rode his shiny blue motorcycle up from Fredericksburg to see it in person.
I've known people that served in Vietnam, and even when they come back, sometimes they don't come back.
This is something that he needs to do every year, and I support him for it. No matter what it takes, we get out here.
And that was Kevin Lewis reporting. KPBS often covers the issues local veterans struggle with when it comes to mental health. In February, military reporter Steve Walsh looked at how the VA is helping those with gambling addiction. You can find that story right now at kpbs.org. You may have seen news of the major fire this weekend that burned part of San Francisco's Fisherman's Wharf. In the shadow of the flames were two pieces of military history. Despite all the damage, both were saved. The SS Jeremiah O'Brien and USS Pampanito, a submarine, were in danger of burning, but firefighters were able to protect both of them. The O'Brien was part of the World War II invasion of Normandy.
Fireboat 3 did an amazing defensive fire attack and defended our history, specifically on Memorial Day weekend. It saved that vessel.
The O'Brien has been docked in San Francisco since the 80s. It might need to be moved for firefighters to complete their investigation.
I'm Judy Woodruff tonight on the NewsHour, remembering those who died in service to the country as crowds gather on the unofficial start of summer during a pandemic. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
The Republican Party wants to stop a plan to send mail-in ballots to all California voters. Governor Newsom announced the move by executive order this month due to concerns about COVID-19. The Republican National Committee filed a lawsuit claiming the mail-in ballots bring a potential for voter fraud. The governor's office replied by saying voters should not have to choose between their health and their right to vote. It's a busy weekend for getaways, but one resort town mayor in California is telling visitors to stay home. And now he's facing backlash and a possible recall. Mayor Jason Collin has banned visitors over concerns of spreading COVID-19. Violators face a $1,000 fine. And critics, including those who work in the tourism industry, want him to resign. They've even launched a GoFundMe campaign.
As a business owner here, I mean, a lot of us are tourism based, and without tourists, we don't survive.
Tourist spots are open for business on the Nevada side of Lake Tahoe. South Lake Tahoe's mayor says he has no intention of running for re-election and is following the county's health guidelines. And as for the GoFundMe, the organizer says it's a publicity tool and that he does not plan to keep the money. The coronavirus pandemic snuffed out more than 5 years of job growth in the nation's solar industry. KPBS environment reporter Eric Anderson says the job losses are happening faster than the rest of the economy, but that there is still hope.
The solar industry predicted there would be more than 300,000 people on their payrolls by the end of the year. The COVID-19 pandemic has drained the light out of that forecast.
COVID really hit us hard. It hit a lot of businesses hard, but we lost almost overnight 21% of our workforce. So that's around 12,000 people that were furloughed or laid off as a result of COVID.
Bernadette Del Chiaro is in charge of the California Solar and Storage Association. She says many of the jobs that have disappeared in the past 2 months are construction jobs.
What we call boots on the roof. So the guys and gals that go out and climb up on roofs and actually do the installation work of building what I call our clean energy future, every roof at a time, one roof at a time.
Del Chiaro is calling on government officials to let the solar industry lead the economic recovery. She says extending federal tax credits, removing regulatory barriers, and pushing for the installation of 1 million solar-fed batteries will fuel the recovery. And that recovery can happen around the country.
The government, the state government, local governments, federal governments are all going to be trying to solve the issue of how do we get our economy moving again, right? How do we get people back to work?
Abby Hopper is president of the Solar Energy Industry Association. She regularly lobbies for the industry on Capitol Hill, and she says jobs can come back quickly if lawmakers support the industry. Hopper's already seen some good things.
We've really accelerated online permitting, instant permitting, remote permitting. That actually, I am hopeful, will continue past this crisis and make that process much more efficient.
Hopper says the industry can restart quickly, and a solar-led economic recovery could translate into a cleaner energy future. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
It's going to be hot this week, especially if you live inland or in the deserts. We're also seeing plenty of sun closer to the coast. And this is what it looked like today in University Heights, and that's overlooking Mission Valley. Mark Mancuso has your forecast.
Temperatures on the rise next couple of days in the inland areas. It is going to be excessively hot. So in the inland sections, the heat is on. Meanwhile, at the coast, temperatures tolerable as we'll have that shallow marine layer. Clouds at night and in the morning hours. And then at the end of the week, an upper trough approaches and start to see some cooling on Friday. But boy, it's really hot in the desert areas. Low desert, high desert. Temperatures are getting up there into the triple digits, so excessive heat warnings are in effect. Here's our weather pattern. Big ridge of high pressure sitting over California, and the heat will be expanding. Hottest days look like they will be Wednesday into Thursday. Some high temperature records could be rivaled. For tonight along the coast, we will see temperatures in the 50s in Oceanside, low 60s San Diego, clouds rolling in. Borrego Springs, 74 tonight, and Mount Laguna, 54. And then for tomorrow, boy, temperatures sizzling in the interior sections with some triple-digit heat. And as we take a look at our forecast highs here, we'll see temperatures climbing to 78 in Oceanside, San Diego 78, Ramona though 91, El Cajon 93, Borrego Springs 109, and Campos up to 93 degrees. And it looks like another sizzler here on Wednesday. There you can see an excessive heat, and it's going to be dangerously hot in the interior sections. So as we take a look at our forecast along the coast, temperatures on the warm side will be in the upper 70s next couple of days. And notice some cooling coming in Friday into Saturday. Into the interior we go, and temperature is heating up close to 90 degrees. Friday and Saturday, you see some cooling in the mountains here, close to 80 next couple of days. End of the week, some cooling on the way. Deserts, it's hot. And then by the weekend, not quite as hot. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Mark Mancuso.
Memorial Day is when the nation pauses to reflect on troops who have given the ultimate sacrifice. But at Arlington National Cemetery, it's a 24/7 commitment and one that has been forced to adapt by the COVID-19 pandemic. Barbara Starr has the story.
The flag that covers the casket is no longer handed to the next of kin. Instead, it's gently laid on a table next to the grave at Arlington National Cemetery. Solemn funeral honors adjusted in the age of coronavirus to pay tribute to decorated World War II veteran Robert Belch. Here, everyone wears masks, even the rifle platoon. Captain Doug Rohde has been back from Iraq for just 8 months. He now performs ceremonial duties for the Army's Old Guard unit here.
It means a lot to me that we can still be there for the families, even though, we're dealing with a lot as a country right now.
The new reality, Only 10 family or friends are allowed graveside. As few troops as possible perform funeral honors. Distance is kept, masks are worn. But still, the same dignity and respect at every funeral, even with the changes. Even as on this Memorial Day, Arlington is open only to families of those buried here. Specialist Joseph Gorgas is part of the Army's elite caisson platoon, the unit that carries those killed on the battlefield, elderly veterans, and presidents of the United States.
Since COVID-19 has started, we have gone from conducting 40 missions as a platoon a week to 0.
The horses that pull the caisson still are on duty, but with extra troops required to do it right, the caissons are not being used to limit the number of people interacting. Up the hill at the tomb of the unknown soldier, troops wear masks as they get ready for their razor-sharp walk. Visitors are no longer allowed, but there is no easing of tradition.
Since 1937, on July 2nd at midnight, there's always been somebody guarding the tomb 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
The Tomb of the Unknown Soldiers, they had lives, right? So at the very least we could do is continue our mission to the best of our abilities.
Across Arlington on this Memorial Day, troops determined to carry on.
There have been a few funerals that we've done in the last couple months where no family has been able to attend due to the virus. Our heart goes out to them, and we're very happy that at least we could be there for them as they're laid to rest.
Barbara Starr, CNN, Washington.
The U.S. Air Force is removing height restrictions for pilots, which will allow more women to serve. And until now, you could be no shorter than 5'4" or taller than 6'5". The decision is a big win for women, considering the average height for a woman in her 20s is under 5'4". The Air Force will now focus more on scientific methods, including everything from weight to the length of arms and legs. Restaurants were allowed to reopen over the weekend, but with certain guidelines in effect. KPBS arts and culture reporter Beth Accomando finds out how a cafe in Hillcrest is using humor to help customers follow social distancing rules.
I'm here at Bread and Sea with owner Charles Kaufman, and he's instituted some policies for social distancing that are kind of interesting. Charles, what are you doing here?
Well, I think the first thing is I need to put my cafe social distancing hat, and that way I can remove my mask. This assures that there is 6 feet. These baguettes assure that there's 6 feet between me and anybody around me. One of the things that we're having now is customers wearing the baguette social distancing hat. We find that is effective and works.
In bread terms, social distancing is 2 baguettes. Kaufman, who left a career in filmmaking to bake bread, still likes to exercise his creativity whenever he can, as in the bakery's social media videos.
Can I have a fork, please? You think I'm an animal? And it's good for the morale of the employees here and keeps me sane.
Since 1994, Bread and Sea has boasted that it's open and baking every day of the year except Christmas. It even continued to bake and do takeout and delivery when the coronavirus pandemic forced a statewide shutdown. But on Thursday, Kaufman was told he could reopen the cafe so long as certain guidelines were enforced, like reduced capacity.
What we've done is we've spaced the tables, but we also have put tables where people cannot sit, where we put other characters at the tables to assure that there's enough distance between the tables that can be occupied. One of the reasons why we're trying to keep it light and fun is we find that customers are more agreeable to the requirements that we're asking of them. I'm a little upset that you're not wearing a hat, Beth. This is but you do have a mask.
Keeping both employees and customers safe is key for Kaufman.
We have to actually have 2 people full-time. We greet people. We kind of explain to the customers the protocol now. We also have to have someone to constantly spray down the tables and chairs and bathrooms. And next, we're thinking of hosing down all the customers out front prior to but we have to get a fire hose extension for that.
Bread and Sea's humor, along with its food, have made it a cherished part of the Hillcrest community.
I think people were very happy to come back and be around other people, at least. And I think we are a community place here as well, so I think people
get some sort of comfort out of it. Plus, it's more fun to serve customers and welcome back the folks in our community. The way I see it, if you can't be profitable, at least be funny. And during these times, we really cannot be profitable.
The bakery and cafe did see a spike up in business over the weekend as patrons sat among furry Muppet-like creatures to enjoy some pastries and sandwiches outside of their homes.
From Bread&C in Hillcrest, I'm Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
Okay, once again, let's update you on the latest county numbers on COVID-19. Today's update from the county included 96 new cases, bringing the total to nearly 6,800. 249 people have died locally, but none were reported in the latest update. Also today, the state issued new guidance for places to reopen for in-person services. And here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. On Morning Edition, a spike in citations for San Diego's homeless population. Our news partner iNewsSource looks at the crackdown on illegal lodging. And then on Midday Edition, more on the new guidelines to reopen churches in California. We'll have a conversation with the San Diego Catholic Diocese. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley. And by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.